this is a speculative question from Germantown Runner, which I found I did. He's like I said, he's on fire tonight. He should be the one hosting the show tonight, apparently. Since NDAs are always unexplained, can future terminal technology be planned for like cryogenics for a form of near-death experience? Like I can't imagine giving yourself a near-death experience on purpose, but I guess technology's probably going to get there.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if people do it already. And people do say that like ketamine and DMT drug experiences, and ayahuasca too, that they are very similar to near-death experiences. Um, some of the examples of NDEs I found in some of the indigenous cultures might have actually been the shamanic types of experiences. They might actually have been real NDEs because they would say things like, they would take so many drugs of whatever type of drug it was that they would pass out dead, and everybody around them would think that they were dead, and they'd come back to life. Um, and sometimes they would even say that the shaman burned himself to death or clubbed himself to death. So our definition of death might be different for one thing, but another thing is I even though there's no way of being able to determine how dead people in the past might have been in these experiences. I think if somebody's clubbing themselves senseless to the point that everybody around them thinks is dead, we could probably kind of consider that an NDE.
I was going to say,
So
I mean, it's a sliding scale, right? Because the ability to medically bring them back is far different too.
yeah, absolutely. So and which might have made them seem even more kind of miraculous before there was good medical technology. Um, but yeah, I mean, I there's also attempts at making virtual reality NDEs. A couple of people have done like you put on the VR glasses and you have this 3D NDE. But as far as you know a mainstream thing of people of doctors medically inducing them, yeah, I don't know. That would be a difficult ethics thing for them to get around, I think, unless they could prove that there was no physical danger to the person. And even then, the way drugs are regulated, it seems like something like that would be fairly regulated.
And then the horrible follow-up question: would you have one if we got to the point where you could safely medically?
Uh, I probably would if it was safe, but there would be a big part of me thinking, I know this is artificially induced, and therefore I don't know if this is a real experience or if it's more like just a drug experience. And that's where I have a little bit of skepticism about the drug experience NDE equation, um, because just because a ketamine trip or whatever can be very similar to an NDE, it doesn't mean that it's actually fundamentally the same thing or even anything like it.
Ooh, that's a deep point there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've all, well, I guess we all, I can't say that. Several of us, is that fair? Have had those drunken visions, right, where we've had a little too much to drink, and
Right.
so, which we
Yeah, and
normally don't
I've
have.
done yeah, I've done psilocybin and psychedelics in the past, when I was younger, and there was, even if I was seeing, I don't know, whatever, God in the moon, um, part of me knew that no, I'm just tripping, and I knew that it wasn't really real. So I think if in contrast, if I had an NDE and I saw my body lying there and I was outside my body and had some kind of genuinely evidential thing, I think that would be a very different prospect than knowing that I had taken a drug, I think. But then
So,
again, people who take especially ayahuasca, they're absolutely convinced that these entities they encounter or whatever were 100% real.